today what we wanted to talk about was most intriguing U23 players in the Premier League this season. This is kind of a big thing. It's more like narratives around it and stuff like that. Not the best players, but ones that we really think you should be watching this season. So you want to go with the first one?
I'm gonna go with the first group one,
Okay.
and because I know everybody's gonna be looking at Sancho, but I'm more interested in seeing what is United gonna do with all these wingers that are behind Sancho, because you got Elanga, Shola Shortire, Amad Diallo, and Facundo Pelestri.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be straight up with you, and all these four are unbelievable. Like in any team that they'd be one of the best youngsters in that team. So how is United going to deal with this? They'll have to loan at least two of them. One of them will stay with the under 23s as like a backup, and I'm interested in seeing who are they going to have at the bench, because I'm shooting for Elanga. Elanga has been impressing me. His speed, his quality in decision making, all these attributes. I think Elanga is ready coming off the bench.
Physically, he looks the part right now to take a Premier League battering.
Exactly. So that would be my highlight. I'll highlight how is United going to deal with all these youth wingers.
Okay. Yeah, that's and I'm sure there are a lot of people that listen to this that have thoughts on that. So I would love to know their thoughts, because that's something we wrestle with. I do think it's probably, looking like a Shola is going to wind up tearing up the Premier League 2 again. But you never know, because they're going to have fixtures, a whole lot of fixtures as well, and they're going to need to start developing that depth and blooding that depth. So I think we're going to see more of them than we think. I don't know what that means for Daniel James, but going on, I'm going to have to say, who do I want to start with? I got to start with, we didn't talk about this last week, Emil Smith Rowe. Okay. He was handed the 10. He was handed the number 10. Now, do I think Emil Smith Rowe will turn into a very solid 10? I do. Do I put him on the same level as an Ozil? No, I don't. Right. But the fact of the matter is it's a clear decision that they are keeping it internal, that 10, and that whether or not Houssem Aouar winds up at Arsenal, Emil Smith Rowe is going to get his playing time and is going to get his chance to show it. And here's what it comes down to. Smith Rowe, he bleeds red. Okay, he's a gunner through and through. All right, he understands the gravity of the situation, the gravity of being handed the 10, but he is at the club of his dreams. He is literally at the moment in his dreams that I don't know if he ever actually thought he'd get there. He's not the finished product he's going to be, but it says to me that Arsenal is ready to play this man and let him make the mistakes and work through it. And frankly, they do have that type of a season where they can do this. So Smith Rowe is absolutely one to watch.
That is true. By giving the number 10, they are handing a lot of responsibility to Smith Rowe. Yeah. But do you think he'll start even though Odegaard or James Maddison comes in? Do you still think he starts?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I mean, that's yeah. I don't know. Ask me that again when they actually sign him. I don't necessarily.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think they'll play both at the same time. I think handing him that shirt is like handing him the starter position. So I like a fantastic mention there. I'm gonna go more youth. Okay, and I'm going to go to the other side of the pond in London, and I'm going to go Tottenham, Tottenham. So I'd like to highlight Dan Scarlett. Why? Because, come on, I remember seeing at 16 coming off and being the youngest player ever to play competitively for Tottenham, Dan Scarlett. And I'm seeing some footage, and the finishing, the awareness, and the fact that I don't see any Harry Kane replacements still coming for Tottenham. I know maybe it's because they're expecting to keep Harry Kane. True. But they could be confident with the fact that they have a baller, coming from the academy. And if Tottenham had a Liam Delap in their academy, they'll be looking and they'll be saying, we might play him. If they have a Dan Scarlett, they'll for sure play him. Okay? So, yeah, I'd highlight to expect some minutes for Dan Scarlett in the Premier League.
Especially in the, the Conference League that they'll be in. But, yeah, Dane, he has been prolific, but I don't mean to slow your roll, right? But there was another prolific youth striker, and I think this is probably where Spurs fans will be like, hey, let's back down on this. But Troy Parrott hasn't exactly, and don't get me wrong, he's still at the beginning of his career, but Troy Parrott has not necessarily gone on loan and done what Spurs fans thought that he was going to do, or even Spurs admin thought that they were going to do. So yeah, that's a really, really interesting shout, because we did see a little more of him last year at Dane Scarlett at the end of the year, and I do expect to see a little more from him. But I also, to stay with Spurs, I got to bring up Bryan Gil. I know we talked about him, but there's an interesting thing here, right? The coach is no longer the coach is Nuno Espirito Santo, right? Mm-hmm. I tried to say that in my best Portuguese accent. Okay. And we all know what Santo did with Wolves, right? Diego Jota and Pedro Neto were not finished products when they showed up there. Obviously, no player is a finished product per se, but they improved dramatically under him, if I'm not wrong, right? And I would imagine he's going to employ a relatively winger-centric setup at Spurs. And that's why you look at Bryan Gil and you say he's not the finished product. He's too slight. He's got amazing ball control, amazing flair, amazing fun stuff that you can watch him do. But ultimately, it's going to come down to who's in charge and who's going to give him the chances. And you got to watch him, not just because he was the buy so far this year, but because of Santo's role with Wolves and making Wolves one of the more attractive teams to watch at times. And hopefully bringing it to Spurs.
That's a good mention. He could improve Bryan Gil a lot. But Bryan Gil is more technically gifted, so I feel like he'll explore the middle much more than Neto. Let's see. I don't want to go here in depth, but that's a really good mention. I'm curious to see how it works. I'm gonna mention though, on the Wolves side, Fabio Silva. I think this is the season. Okay, I know he's just 18, so me saying this is the season is very early, but I'm confident because I know Fabio Silva has high expectations with himself.
Yeah.
So I know he must have prepared this offseason like a madman. Sure. So I wouldn't be surprised if he'd managed to score 10 goals this season. Premier League goals would be a madness, but I'm going to go bold. I believe in Fabio Silva scoring 10 Premier League goals this season. I would be surprised, but I wouldn't be too surprised. That is bold. Okay? Fabio Silva, I'm counting on you, man.
that is bold, but hey, we've seen it. He's been putting in the work. So I think you might be right on that one. Although
and I'd like to mention too fast Billy Gilmour.
Okay.
For Norwich. Because I am hyped to see how he performs in his first match, because we know Billy Gilmour, every first match is a killer. But I feel like he's going to offer a lot of stability to Norwich. And coming off from the championship, he knows what a team like Chelsea does. And I think that was a very good loan done by Norwich. So be excited. He's one of the best youngsters in the Prem, in my opinion. And yeah, good to see.
That's a good one. All right, well then I gotta throw Christian Pulisic in there just because I know he's 22. Come on, I mean, he came in a 70 million euro deal. We all expect him to be this, but Christian Pulisic has needed a break for like 3 years. He has needed time to be healthy, to kind of get right. He is now coming off of what I would consider a very successful offseason, in where they won the CONCACAF Nations League title over Mexico. And then he was literally able to chill. And I mean, come back to the States and then get his mind right to come into a Chelsea preseason and make sure that day one, he's ready to go. And I really do expect him to be recovered, recentered, and ready to push for an everyday spot in the Chelsea 11, so that we see more of those glimpses that we saw against like a Manchester City, when he just kind of traipsed by somebody and then finished it, pinged it off the inside of the post. That was kind of an older game. Or the hat trick against Burnley. I mean, there's just so many moments that we want to see in extended moments of time. I think he's going to get closer to an Eden Hazard this year, but we'll see.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that's a good mention. That's a good mention, Pulisic. So he's got the rest, and yeah, high expectations though next season with Tuchel. I'm gonna go here with my final pick of the Prem ones to watch with Boubakary Soumaré, because I know what he's delivered at Monaco, and Leicester fans, what a steal! Okay, for 22 million, like I think that was 22 million. Boubakary Soumaré was a bargain, okay? Because he's a bargain because he's the type of player that can play in the Premier League straight away. And if you're signing a 22-year-old that can play in the Premier League straight away, and in my opinion, with quality, you're getting a bargain, okay? And Leicester, what a signing there in midfield. This French kid is going to surprise a lot of people. So remember the name, guys.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that Leicester City midfield. Ndidi, you've got Soumaré, you've got Tielemans. If you can hold on to Madison, I mean that core is just so exciting. It really is. I mean, but that's a very good shout. And you know, I know we got a lot more here, but we do have to move on. I have one more, and he's kind of like an unsung hero of Aston Villa. Eredaze Kansa. He's the center back, former Brentford center back in the day, and we didn't really talk about them today. But Eredaze Kansa, I mean, everybody right now is talking about Grealish. They're talking about Buendia. They're talking about who lines up where, right? But to be honest, regardless of offense as your best defense, you need Tyrone Mings and Eredaze Kansa to be much better this year, or as good, if not better this year. And Kansa, I don't think got enough respect last year with what he was doing at center back. I mean, maybe he did get some respect because he was on had the potential to be a part of that English national team. But he just throws himself everywhere. Just a team-oriented player, and one that I fully expect to continue his tag of kind of one of the most underrated defenders in the Premier League. So regardless of what you get from offensive firepower, Kansa is going to play a big role for Villa and whether or not they can repeat last year.